In 48 BCE, Cleopatra fights to reclaim her throne from her brother amidst political turmoil, forging alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, ultimately leading to her tragic and iconic end. The year is 48 BCE. A young woman, barely 21 years old, stands on the edge of a precipice. Her kingdom is crumbling, her throne stolen by her own brother, and her life hangs in the balance. But this is no ordinary woman. This is Cleopatra, Queen of Egypt, descendant of gods, and a master of survival. In a desperate gamble, she does the unthinkable. She smuggles herself into the presence of Julius Caesar, the most powerful man in the Roman world. Legend says she was rolled up in a carpet, delivered as a gift. When she unfurls herself, it's not just a queen who emerges, it's a force of nature. This is the moment that changes everything. But who was Cleopatra, really? Was she the cunning seductress history often paints her to be, or was she something far more extraordinary? Her story is not just one of power and politics. It's a tale of ambition, love, betrayal, and a woman's relentless fight to defy the odds in a world ruled by men. To understand Cleopatra, we must first step back into the world she was born into, a world of dazzling opulence and brutal intrigue. She was not Egyptian by blood, but a descendant of Ptolemy I, one of Alexander the Great's generals. When Alexander died in 323 BCE, his vast empire was carved up among his generals, and Ptolemy took control of Egypt. The Ptolemies ruled as pharaohs, adopting Egyptian customs and religion to legitimize their reign. Yet they remained Greek in language and culture, creating a unique blend of traditions. Cleopatra, however, was different. She was the first Ptolemaic ruler to learn the Egyptian language, and she embraced the religion and customs of her people. This was no small thing. It endeared her to the Egyptian populace and set her apart from her predecessors. Cleopatra's early life was marked by intrigue and danger. Her father, Ptolemy XII, was a weak ruler who relied heavily on Roman support to maintain his throne. When he died in 51 BCE, Cleopatra, then just 18, inherited the crown alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. But this was no equal partnership. The Ptolemies had a long tradition of sibling marriages, a practice meant to keep power within the family. But it often led to bitter rivalries. Cleopatra and Ptolemy XIII were no exception. Within a few years, their relationship soured, and Cleopatra was forced to flee Alexandria. Her return, with Caesar's help, was nothing short of dramatic. The Roman general, already embroiled in his own power struggles, saw an opportunity in Egypt. With his support, Cleopatra reclaimed her throne, and Ptolemy XIII met a tragic end, drowning in the Nile as he fled the battlefield. But Cleopatra's troubles were far from over. She now had to navigate the treacherous waters of Roman politics, all while maintaining her grip on Egypt. Her relationship with Caesar was both personal and political. She bore him a son, Caesarion, and followed him to Rome, where she lived as his guest, or some might say, his trophy. But Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE threw the Roman world into chaos once again. Cleopatra, ever the survivor, returned to Egypt, where she faced new challenges. Her other brother husband, Ptolemy XIV, died under mysterious circumstances, and she named her young son as co-ruler. But the real test was yet to come. Enter Mark Antony, one of Caesar's most loyal lieutenants. Antony was a charismatic and ambitious man, but also deeply flawed. When he summoned Cleopatra to meet him in Tarsus, she knew this was a moment to seize. she arrived in grand style, sailing up the Cydnus River on a golden barge, dressed as the goddess Aphrodite. Antony, known for his love of excess and spectacle, was enchanted. Their meeting marked the beginning of a passionate and tumultuous relationship that would change the course of history. Together, Cleopatra and Antony formed a powerful alliance. They had 3 children and dreamed of creating a new empire that would rival Rome. But their ambitions put them on a collision course with Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, and Antony's rival. The final showdown came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. Despite their combined forces, Cleopatra and Antony were no match for Octavian's superior tactics. In a moment of desperation, Cleopatra fled the battlefield, and Antony followed. Their defeat was sealed. The aftermath was tragic. Antony, believing Cleopatra was dead, fell on his sword. Cleopatra, captured by Octavian, chose to end her own life rather than face the humiliation of being paraded through Rome as a prisoner. Legend has it that she died by the bite of an asp, a symbol of divine royalty. With her death, Egypt became a Roman province, and the age of the pharaohs came to an end. But Cleopatra's legacy endures. She was a woman who defied the odds, using her intelligence, charm, and determination to navigate a world dominated by men. She was a scholar, fluent in multiple languages, and a patron of the arts and sciences. She was a diplomat, forging alliances that shaped the ancient world. And she was a mother, fiercely protective of her children and her kingdom. Yet, history has not always been kind to Cleopatra. Roman propaganda painted her as a seductress who used her beauty to manipulate powerful men. But this portrayal overlooks her true genius. Cleopatra was not just a queen, she was a strategist, a survivor, and a symbol of resilience. Her story is a reminder that history is often written by the victors, but the truth is far more complex and far more fascinating. So the next time you hear the name Cleopatra, don't just think of the myths and legends. Think of the woman behind the crown, a queen who dared to dream of a world where she could rule on her own terms. A woman who, even in defeat, left an indelible mark on history. And a story that thousands of years later still captivates us with its drama, its intrigue, and its timeless lessons about power, love, and the human spirit. But let's delve deeper into the layers of Cleopatra's life, because her story is not just about her relationships with Caesar and Antony. It's about her brilliance as a ruler, her vision for Egypt, and the lengths she went to protect her people and her legacy. Cleopatra was not merely a pawn in the games of powerful men. She was a player in her own right, and a masterful one at that. Consider this. Cleopatra was not just a political leader, she was also a scholar. She was fluent in at least 9 languages, including Egyptian, Greek, Latin, and Aramaic. This linguistic prowess allowed her to communicate directly with diplomats and leaders from across the known world, bypassing interpreters and gaining an edge in negotiations. She was also deeply interested in science and medicine, often consulting with scholars and physicians to advance knowledge in these fields. Her court in Alexandria was a hub of intellectual activity, attracting some of the greatest minds of the ancient world. Cleopatra's reign was also marked by significant economic reforms. She understood that Egypt's wealth lay in its agriculture, particularly its grain production. By modernizing irrigation systems and improving trade routes, she ensured that Egypt remained a breadbasket for the Mediterranean world. This not only strengthened her kingdom's economy, but also gave her leverage in her dealings with Rome. When famine struck Rome, it was Cleopatra's grain that fed its people, earning her both gratitude and resentment from the Roman elite. But perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of Cleopatra's rule was her ability to balance tradition and innovation. She embraced her role as a pharaoh, participating in religious ceremonies and presenting herself as the living embodiment of the goddess Isis. At the same time, she was a forward-thinking ruler who sought to modernize her kingdom and secure its place in a rapidly changing world. This duality made her a figure of both reverence and controversy, both in her own time and in the centuries that followed. Of course, no discussion of Cleopatra would be complete without addressing the myths that have surrounded her for centuries. The image of Cleopatra as a seductress, a woman who used her beauty to ensnare powerful men, has been perpetuated by Roman historians and popular culture alike. But this portrayal is deeply flawed. Cleopatra's relationships with Caesar and Antony were as much about political strategy as they were about personal affection. She understood that alliances with powerful Roman leaders were essential to protecting Egypt's independence, and she used every tool at her disposal to secure those alliances. To reduce her to a mere seductress is to overlook the complexity of her character and the depth of her achievements. Cleopatra's death, too, has been the subject of much speculation and myth-making. The story of her suicide by ass bite is dramatic, but it may not be entirely accurate. Some historians suggest that she may have used poison, while others argue that she was murdered by Octavian's agents. What is clear, however, is that Cleopatra chose to die on her own terms, rather than submit to the humiliation of being paraded through Rome as a captive. In doing so, she cemented her place in history as a woman of extraordinary courage and resolve. In the end, Cleopatra's story is one of triumph and tragedy, of brilliance and resilience. She was a woman who defied the expectations of her time, who dared to dream of a world where she could rule as an equal among men. Her life was a testament to the power of intelligence, determination, and vision. And her legacy, a legacy of strength, sophistication, and unyielding ambition, continues to inspire us today. So as we reflect on the life of Cleopatra, let us remember her not just as a queen, but as a trailblazer, a woman who navigated the complexities of power and politics with unparalleled skill, a leader who fought tirelessly for her people and her kingdom, and a figure whose story reminds us that even in the face of overwhelming odds, it is possible to leave an indelible mark on the world. Cleopatra was and remains Egypt's legendary queen, a woman whose name will forever be synonymous with greatness.